All right, let's rock and roll. Welcome to Physiology First. I am really excited to kick off a series of conversations at the intersection of health and human evolution. And I want to start this first episode with a question that I ask students a lot at our Physiology First campuses. Physiology First works with families and young people all across the globe to better understand our brain, our body, and our mind in this age of accelerating technologies and this fast moving future that we're all in. And there's a question that I like to ask them, and I thought it'd be a fun way to start the podcast. What does it mean to be human in the digital age? There's a company in Palo Alto called 1X Technologies, and it's making a humanoid robot, and the robot is called Neo. And you've got to check this thing out. It's a humanoid robot that walks across the house, and it vacuums, and it straightens your pictures, and it does your laundry, or at least it takes the laundry across the room in a nice little wicker basket. And it does all these household things. It does things that are normally equated with human tasks, chores, jobs, and it does them for you. And the premise of it, the idea is that it gives you more time to do human things yourself, human connection, conversation, cooking, things that robots can't do. Basic point is that humans are going to human, robots are going to robot, right? The reason I like to present the robot and the technology to young people is it forces us to ask then a critical question, which is, why are you not Neo? What separates you? If being human means having two legs, two arms, walking around, having a central processor in our heads that allows us to figure things out, doing basic chores like cooking and cleaning, if that's what being human is, then, well, one up, Neo. Like, you've got that done. There's something so much more important, so much more fundamental, so much more intangible, so much more beautiful, so much more magical, so much more powerful about the human experience. And what I appreciate about this accelerating wave of technologies is that it forces us to confront that question, to ask that question, to pursue that question. It forces us to ask, what is it about me that makes me uniquely human? Why am I not Neo, the humanoid robot? If I'm walking across the room with a wicker basket full of laundry, what is the difference? If no one were there to interact with us, and you were just to see Neo walking across the floor carrying the laundry, or me alone in some apartment walking across the floor carrying my laundry, there is something that connects us to our own physiology, to each other, to a communal stream, to an arc of evolution. There's something so incredibly important, and the risk right now is that we lose it. The risk right now is that we become detached from it, disconnected from it. We're in the midst of this raging crisis in psychological health and in physical health and in social health. And unless we can expertly navigate this intersection in our evolution, this intersection of new technologies rapidly changing economic landscape, a rapidly changing social landscape, a new era of isolation, we're going to lose our minds. We're going to lose our connection to purpose, and I think we're going to lose our soul. So at the end of the day, if we aren't having conversations on what it means to be human in the digital age, I think we run the risk of losing the thread of our humanity, the thread of our power, the thread of our connection. But if we do ask the questions, if we really dive into the future of technology, and if we realize that the false dichotomy is that it's a battle between the past and the future, that we're choosing between rapid, fast AI blazing, technologies and applications and games and entertainment, or just sitting around by a fire and sweating and talking, that it isn't a binary, that it is an intersection where we can express the power of our breath, our body, our mind, in community with each other in a really powerful, important way. And, we can leverage the latest technologies to upgrade our health, to build incredible businesses, to build paths to purpose in our lives, to be artists on every frontier. So the Physiology First podcast is really, more than anything, a set of questions about what it means to be human in the digital age, conversations at the frontiers of health and human evolution, and an invitation to step into our power, to take the wheel of our own adaptation, to evolve and adapt on purpose, and in alignment with the Physiology First mission to help the next generation do the same. One of the things that drives us as an organization is that we're seeing the results of young people, experiencing rapidly declining health, incredible rates of depression, of anxiety, of suicidality, of isolation. And we're asking, who's going to give them the tools and the skills to navigate the most incredibly complex time in human history? If we don't, and if we do, we could help a generation walk a path to purpose, walk a path to connection, walk a path to potential. So in every episode of the Physiology First podcast, I'll either be sharing my thoughts. My thoughts are shaped by experiences with families and with kids in our community centers, our community health centers. Or I'll be inviting on expert guests who have their own knowledge and wisdom and stories to share. And I really hope to be interacting with all of you. I hope that this becomes a bidirectional conversation on co-creating a future that's awesome, that's inspiring, that is potential-filled, that is purpose-driven, and where we don't lose the thread of our collective humanity, we tighten it. We tighten it by recognizing that this is one of the most interesting intersections in human evolution. We're at the dawn of the AI age. We're watching entire industries become obsolete. We're watching new industries be built. And we have the power, we have the capacity to navigate this with expertise and with skill and with some humility and with a lot of humanity. Or we have the capacity to, again, be kind of sucked into the technologies and maybe detached and unplugged from our own physiology. So I'm excited about this podcast. I'm really looking forward to sharing the stories and the experiences from our campuses, inviting everybody into a conversation on co-creating a future that is inspiring, and blazing a path to health and human potential for the next generation who need to see inspiration modeled, purpose modeled, and focus modeled, because it's up to us to put our focus towards building a tomorrow that we want to see today, that we want to wake up into, that we feel is the best version of the world. And I think if we do that, we, in the process of it, in the process of that co-creation, we're reminded of what it means to be human. It means having the capacity to care, to think ahead about the emotional toll of isolation in our society, to feel some sense of responsibility to one another and to our kids, to feel like we're not alone and isolated, but we're part of a continuum, and to feel like we're actually part of evolution itself, because we are. Evolution hasn't stopped, we're in it. And we have the opportunity to evolve on purpose, to adapt on purpose, and to ultimately drive the car and not be the passenger. So thank you for tuning into this little micro intro. I couldn't be more excited to dive into a long journey at a strange and complex and beautiful and interesting time on what it means to be human together. And for us, that starts by answering one fundamental question, which is, where do we start the learning journey? In our estimation, we started by learning about ourselves. That's why we call the organization Physiology First. Throughout the podcast, we're going to dive into the science of breath and of sleep and of nutrition and of exercise and of brain health, because if there's one thing that we can understand when everything seems uncertain, it's our relationship to ourselves, and that becomes a foundation for a stronger relationship to one another, and that becomes a conduit to a stronger community, navigating the next intersection in human evolution together. So thanks for being part of the ride. Let's rock and roll and have some fun with this podcast.